2023. We're having a digital world town hall, as well as a ripple effect. We're grateful for you taking the time. We'll step through kind of the topics today. General update as to the progress of the last weeks, at least the last week. Any kind of general news and what's going on that may be relevant, and then questions that you may have. You can follow along at either any of the social channels real time, or you can interact real time. If you go to, let's see, you can go to either digitalworld.clear.events, or you can go to rippleeffect.events. I'd like to also report that here at the Digital World, you'll be able to come just to the website and actually start streaming it right from here. So most of the end pages have an element right here where it talks about either adding to your community or joining it. So you can join by clicking here on any of the Digital World pages, but at the same time, what we're popping in here is a little feed where people can actually watch it real time. So perfecting that takes a lot of time, but for those that are here and working with it, we're grateful for you taking the time. We're also grateful for those that are on assisting, Terrence out of Australia, Wally and Elle out of the US and North America. This is a private membership association. The things that we'll go over are for private members. It's protected under those constitutional laws globally. And some of the things that we'll talk about may be forward-looking statements. Some people may say, how can it be globally? We'll talk about that in a little while, especially when we're talking about a jurisdiction that's digital, that faces the whole earth or covers the whole earth. The simple things that we talk about as a strategy and an implementation of that strategy, where people can use phones, kind of like these, and they can, and not just a Freedom phone or a Clear phone or an Armor phone, but really the goal is to get even Apple and Android into the same ecosystem. So currently about 60% of all current production Android phones work, and we're hopeful to have that to about 90% within the end of this year. So we'll announce some pretty key partnerships that we're working on today, but formally we won't do that in this body. So really the strategy is simple. One of the biggest advancements that we've been able to accomplish over the last couple of weeks, I'm going to jump to this page here, which is just in the Digital World. If we go to the Digital World and we click on Digital Life, this Life app is also meant to span not just for the Digital World, but also for, I'm going to pull up a real quick chart here. This chart is what we call a go-to-market strategy. So for those of you that are on the Ripple Effect and Clear United and telling people, this is your opportunity to really be the voice, to share the message one-on-one, you with your friends, your neighbor, a grassroots approach. But there's also abilities to be able to have other countries or other partners be able to take that technology that we call this digital life and brand it as their own. Maybe it's Fiji Life, maybe it's Samsung Life, but it's basically a technology that enables a QR code or 12 words, kind of like this, to be able to synchronize with your finger, and then you own your own data, your own identity, your own logins, and you basically, in a way, you turn into a citizen of the digital world, where you actually have a surname that is a type of derived key from that master private key. When people say keys, I don't understand that. In this encryption world, people call it crypto world, blockchain world, crypto world, whatever. The simple thing that we're talking about is really math that's been intelligently organized, that uses a process that is scalable on a back end that literally will be the future for humanity. We talk about the future for humanity. That's one of the big keys that actually happened this last week, primarily with the Fed now. So, and this is news to me as of just recent, but supposedly on July 20th. So again, today's the 25th. So 5 days ago, this was basically announced, and we'll go ahead and read it. So we'll have Alex read it here. So here we go.
The FedNow service went live on July 20th, 2023. It is available to depository institutions in the United States and enables individuals and businesses to send instant payments through their depository institution accounts. The service is a flexible, neutral platform that supports a broad variety of instant payments. At the most fundamental level, the service provides interbank clearing and settlements and enables funds to be transferred from the account of a sender to the account of a receiver in near real time and at any time, any day of the year. Depository institutions and their service providers can build on this fundamental capability to offer value-added services to their customers. The FedNow service is designed to maintain uninterrupted 24/7 by 365 processing with security features to support payment integrity and data security. The service has a 24-hour business day each day of the week, including weekends and holidays. End-of-day balances are reported on Federal Reserve accounting records for each participating depository institution on each FedNow service business day. Access.
So basically what you're seeing is federal governments, namely the United States of America and Federal Reserve. If you're not familiar with what the Federal Reserve is, it's actually a governed ecosystem that is separate from the United States of America. People may argue with me on that all day long, but the bottom line is they're finally adopting the technology that we've been talking about for well over a decade. This technology does not go offline. This technology's architecture stays up. For those that are not aware, the internet was actually created for basically a nuclear holocaust. So if multiple systems went offline, there could still be communications and systems that functioned where they didn't go offline. Now, what we're seeing is the same approach used with distributed systems or nodes or ecosystems that can basically do that same type of thing, but with transactions. And what we're seeing here as of 5 days ago, the FedNow system, I guess that's a registered trademark from the Federal Reserve System, is now using decentralized technologies in a centralized format. And that's really where the question comes in. Is it centralized or is it decentralized? And excuse me, it's been kind of a couple of weeks of interesting realities. But so when we talk about 24/7, and usually banks go offline. That's why they call it the banker's hours from 8 to 5, and then weekends are all off. But now we're talking about 24/7. There are no holidays, there are no weekends, because the architecture that's behind this is what they call distributed architecture. So the real question is, who owns the keys behind this? So it's nice to see that decentralized architectures and distributed architectures are being adopted, and that transactions can actually be real time. They can be 24/7. But the question is this actually going to be truly decentralized, or will it be centralized? And for those of you that have been on for years and watching, we said that a couple things were going to happen. One, XRP would actually win its case against the Federal Reserve or the SEC. And that happened about 2 weeks ago. And now we see this announcement here. And I would argue, I haven't even touched this technology, that at least what the Reserve Bank is announcing here, but I would bet that it's basically based on a derivative or some form of Ripple-based technologies. Now, what's interesting and really important to know is this technology is very stable. Stellar is another ecosystem. There's many other countries that are actually testing them out in pilots and rolling them out. But we're not talking about, can I go down to a 7-Eleven and actually buy, a pack of gum? We're talking about transactions from country to country. They talk in here about individuals, enabling individuals and businesses to send instant payments. And so they basically have to create two separate accounts to be able to do this. We'll talk a lot about that in the future. But that technology is absolutely already out there. When you look at the technology today, even with the digital world or these other ecosystems, you can see it where it can actually send in real time. When I say real time, I'm talking less than 10 seconds full settlements. Majority of the time, it's like 5 seconds full settlement. And in some of the cases, within Ripple and Stellar, there are fees to the network, which is a little different conversation. It kind of works out like how gas does with Ethereum. But in the digital world, there are no fees. In the digital world, there is no governance centrally to how this can actually be adopted and deployed. So this is a very big announcement. I remember probably 20 years ago, I sat down with a gentleman named Bob or Robert. Bob Bennett was his name, Senator Bob Bennett. And he was actually over organizations like the Federal Reserve System. And he said to me, he says, Mike, we think we're worried about people, and this was when 9/11 was still a fresh topic, and it still should be. We should always be remembering the past and learning from it. But he says, we think we're worried about people running into buildings with planes. If we were to go down, the federal wire were to go down and not be able to take transactions, maybe it's a Visa payment or a banking transfer, ACH, or a SWIFT type transaction, we would see. So he's talking about basically no transactions financially, talking about economic torture or terror or risks. So this is something that has been known for a long time as an Achilles heel. And so what we're seeing here around 24/7, 365, I don't remember if you remember, the federal wire went off for about 11 hours last year in Q1. And I don't know if it was by design or not, but the point that I'm trying to drive at is this architecture with distributed architecture absolutely will fulfill the technology staying up. The question we all have to figure out, including myself, is have they effectively centralized decentralization? And the way to answer that question, we look at the wallets and we look at who owns the keys to the wallets. When I say wallets, I'll come back over to. So when you actually set up an encryption or a crypto-based wallet, you get these keys. So these 12 words, okay? So who owns the keys? That's one part of the question. And then how are the keys actually distributed and the code behind distributing these keys? Is it open? So is the code open? Can we actually look at the code to see how the derived keys, which most of these systems don't even have an understanding of derived key architecture, but how do they actually function or work, and who owns the keys? If you can provide the transparency around key ownership, key rotation, and derived keys, then those systems will absolutely be the systems that you need to base the future off of, because the individual truly will own their own keys, and then their own logins, then their own identity, then their own data. And that's one big thing that we've actually, this is an advancement that's happened not just over the last week, but about the last month. So inside of Clear Life, there's some other screenshots. I'm gonna jump out to let's see here, Clear OS dot. What is it? Apps. It's without an S. So we're gonna come to the marketplace and we're gonna type in. It's one of the. I'll just type in live. We'll see which ones we have in here. We'll just stick with the same one that we just had. Let's see if you've got updated screenshots. Some interesting news from Coinbase this last week, but I won't go through that right now. I don't know why this isn't pulling up. What we'll do is we'll go to Google. Can someone search that real fast and see if it's an issue on my side? So when I say search that, I'm saying go to clearos.app/marketplace, search digital life, and see if it comes up for you. It usually does for me, but I'm wondering why it's not. But regardless, I'll go to Google and I'll do the same thing. So I'm going to search digital life.
Michael, it came up for me.
Okay, so it's something on my side. Thank you.
I put a link in the chat.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I got it too.
I am in a browser that is cutting edge. That's interesting. Now we'll see here. Whoa. Will someone also send me the digital life link in the Google Play Store? Be greatly appreciated. can't find it anywhere. Okay, so thank you for posting that other link. I'm going to drop that here. So this is digital life within the Clear ecosystem. So this is not the Google Play Store. This is the Clear OS marketplace. And there should be some screenshots here. Yeah, so you can kind of see this technology is a base technology that other brands or cultures can fork and build their environments off of. So you can also link in other apps, you can get updates, but there's actually some features and functions that have started popping in here where you can actually start testing adding photos. So let's say that you take photos and that's a part of your life and your history, maybe where you go, what you do, but you don't want to tie into the Google systems. Or maybe you're already into like the Google systems, you're using Google Photos, and you want to have a separate location to be able to back this data up to. So it's not just going to Google; you actually own it yourself. So that same technology is tied into digital life. So mail backup, contacts backup, notes backup, text backup. When I say text, I'm talking about Clear Signal. So you can kind of see some of the technology here. So Clear Signals, text messages, encryption, both encrypted and non-encrypted messages are all in there. Oh, and by the way, we got this last week, we got notice. So we helped long ago. We helped fund. Well, I shouldn't say we. Well, there's some personal funds and there's also some corporate funds from Clear Foundation to the Signal Foundation around helping Signal to basically fund some of their development. We believe that they would stay true and honest and open around, the development, the apps, and really the code to make sure that there's not backdoors and other things. There was a separation around how some of the coding between Clear Signal and Signal was done, and there was a trademark for both. Clear Signal has a trademark, or at least a process there, and then Signal. So we're trying to separate the two from a confusion standpoint, because really the services and offerings are real similar in their stay. But ultimately, there's dialogue around that from a legal standpoint, which is a beautiful conversation, and it's good to have. But that's one thing that's also this last week. So again, you basically have different apps that back up within this ecosystem. So what this really means to people is, let's say you have a phone, and let's say you crack your screen, or you drop it in some water, or you just can't access it, or you lose it. Let's say it's just gone. You can grab another decentralized phone, and it'll ask for your 12 words. So these types of, let's see. Well, this is not a good screenshot for it, but it'll ask for your 12 words, and then maybe it will. No. And then it'll synchronize with your finger, and then your data will come back. So when we're talking about data, we're now talking about mail data, all your contacts, as well as the wallet addresses for different systems. So for instance, we talk about this FedNow system. That FedNow system is actually going to, because of the technology, and I haven't actually verified this, but I would be 98% confident that the technology that they're using is a derivative or direct ecosystem to the Ripple ecosystem. And I would also say that the Ripple ecosystem is centrally controlled. So you've got to understand the governance and the technology, which are two separate topics, and it all comes down to key management control. So, but the value is, how can these systems actually communicate together? So if you have a app like this that's actually backing up your contacts, and your contacts can have multiple different wallet address sequences. And so a lot of people may be understanding what I'm talking about, but basically it's just inside of your wallet. And I'll pull it up for you real fast here. So I've got contacts up. I'll make it so you can actually see this better. So I've got contacts up here, okay? So I'm just going to grab a contact, or maybe I'll just create a new one, okay? So I'm going to create a new one. Notice how I have that wallet up at the top there? So if you just click down, or let's say, you can actually see that I can have multiple wallets from different chains, all with one contact. And those contacts are my contacts. They're not stored The goal is to get them not stored in a separate ecosystem. Now, when I say separate ecosystem, I'm talking Apple has your contacts if you're running an iPhone. Google has your contacts if you're running an Android phone. But the goal is to be able to take all of your Apple contacts and Google contacts and pull them into your new ecosystem, your new digital life. I'm going to go back over here to Marketplace. Let's see, I think I actually have it here. So you can already see these different apps here, like these contacts. If I put in a public key wallet address within a clear contact, it's not going to synchronize to Google or to Apple. So literally, when you go and create a contact inside these ecosystems, that wallet address that you can see right here, that's not going to go to centralized systems. You can still basically on your own, you can manage these and you can have them. What's this really matter to everybody? When you start making payments, it's not payments to a phone number or to a bank account address or to a routing or to a Cash App name or a Venmo name. It ties to your contacts and it ties to a wallet address that's associated with a contact in your contacts. So what that does is it provides that privacy and obfuscation for the individuals, even if other people may have you in their contacts. So it's really powerful, really important, and massive advancement. So anyways, I'll stop blabbing there, but hopefully people are getting the advancements there. Any questions on what we've talked about so far?
So if I have you in my contacts and I want to send you some money, can I do that? If you don't have a clear phone, can I do that?
No, they've got to be able to have Clear Pay, which then would have Clear Life. So, or it doesn't have to necessarily be Clear Life. It could be Tuvalu Life, Fiji Life, Samsung Life, one of the Life apps that gives them an encryption key, a decent. So in effect, they've got to start the process of decentralizing their ecosystem.
Okay, so if I have you in my contacts, let's say you have Clear Life or a Clear Phone, when I create your contact, is it going and grabbing your wallet address from you, or is it creating a new wallet address?
It's creating it from, you have to grab it from the individual. So the individual is going to have a derived key.
Right.
And that's another thing. You can have multiple wallets. So let's say I've downloaded Tuvalu Life and I want to run Tuvalu Pay and Fiji Pay and Clear Pay. I can actually have these different payment systems and they all have their own wallets and their own public keys. So I can pay different wallets at the same time. So, but to directly answer your question, there needs to be a wallet with their own public key address as a destination. And the goal, and I believe one of the reasons why it's taken well over a decade for things like this FedNow to actually start getting the adoption is it has to be simple. It has to be really, really simple. And so, people need to be able to get that linkage up. But here's the real important part of the answer to your question. And your question is a very good one because it's like, how do I start using this and adapting to it? And the responsibility, and this is where if we want freedom, if we want sovereignty, if we want independence, if we want choice, we have to be responsible in maintaining our own keys. It's like if you want to be able to send someone Venmo or Cash App or maybe an ACH payment, there's a third party that's involved. You have a bank for an ACH payment. You got Venmo as an organization, and then you've got Cash App as an organization. And Cash App's doing some very interesting things behind the scenes where they're using digital money and a type of decentralized money as well. So they'll interface with some other ecosystems, but we won't dig into that. But the point that I'm driving at is there, in any kind of payment system, you have to have some type of account set up. The question is, do you want to have a bank that manages your bank account number and your SWIFT codes and your routing keys And oh, by the way, if you don't do certain things a certain way, they'll shut down your account.
Yeah.
Literally, they'll just say, hey, either your account's shut down for violating these terms. We got one of those this last week. And that
Well,
was
they were shutting down the people who were donating to the truckers.
Yeah.
I pulled all the money out of the bank because I donated, and I thought, they were shutting down people's accounts.
And what's interesting is the centralized systems actually have the individual's names and identity linked to the systems. And so they see the spending transactions that are tied to it. But in one of the things, and most people don't know this, but when they implemented these little chips, these chips actually give not just a third-party validation around security and key tokenization, but it actually gives the ability to see what's being purchased line item by line item. So that doesn't really matter. But what I'm trying to say is either we're responsible and we keep our 12 words, or we give our freedom and rights away to a centralized system that will manage it for us and then can not just cut us out of it, but they can then profile us. And people are like, probably, I don't care. I don't care if they profile us. I don't even care if I want to pay the truckers to do what's right. Or maybe I want to travel and spend money, or maybe I want to save money and I don't want to lose it. Or, there's so many different aspects to this, but the goal is, let's say 10 years from now, 30 years from now, to actually have a parallel system to the centralized systems that has true key management, true identity management, that's obfuscated, that's private. Because as this digital world hits the physical world, and what I mean by that is, as centralized systems with digital technology, your name, your date of birth, your phone number, or maybe an address, maybe the combination of those 3 or 4 different things, that can actually profile you as an individual. And then when you link in your physical world, so maybe you've got an ID, or maybe you've got a driver's license, you start linking that physical world to the digital world, and a lot of things start coming together from a control. And then you start doing it from a biological world. So, who are you? It's not just a matter of your fingerprint. It's a matter of who are you? And I don't want to scare folks, but I really want to be able to paint a picture around, if we continue, and when I say we, I'm going to play a video that's going to talk about a new release that just came out. It's not out yet. It's in pre-release. It's looking forward to the future. It's one of the first things that Apple's actually talked about. I don't want to be negative, but I've always said, show me any innovation that's popped out since Steve Jobs has died from Apple. I mean, show me, where's it at? And I think that this is one of the first innovations, as long as, and for those who have been listening and interacting for a long time, when people talk about the metaverse, I don't ever buy that. When people talk about NFTs, I don't even buy that. The real value is true key management and the individual being able to be sovereign based upon their own data and identity and systems. And if it's tying into other systems that may be manifested in a certain way. So for instance, we're all digitally connecting, whether you're hearing this stream live somewhere or you're on this session asking questions or just getting feedback, we're connecting digitally. But what does the future look like? And this is what I'd like to jump to next if we can.
Select few, far from a mainstream product. But after really digging deep into the Vision Pro and Apple's future plans, I stumbled upon new groundbreaking information that terrified me. And that's when I came to the conclusion that I do think that the Vision Pro is almost certainly going to be a mainstream product. And that's why I want to show you Apple's true plan to make the Vision Pro a mainstream product, and what the future of the Vision Pro will look like when it's mixed with AI and Neuralink, or even what this will look like in authoritarian regimes like China, where Apple already works actively with the CCP to censor and block anything the Chinese government doesn't like. And even in the West, where Apple has been caught spying on all of our iPhone photos, what will this look like for the Vision Pro? Well, trust me, as I tried to answer these questions, things took a very dark turn, because when you pull the veil back on the Vision Pro, it's incredibly nasty. But to understand the full reasons why, we need to begin with a simple question. How on earth will Apple make the Vision Pro mainstream? And what is Zuckerberg wrong about? Why will the Vision Pro take over the metaverse? Well, for starters, it's already happening, as the Vision Pro has accomplished what Meta always failed to. You see, the metaverse failed to provide an immersive, all-encompassing addictive experience. We've all seen these images of this terrible Zuckerberg metaverse where the graphics are awful and there's nothing to do and no reason to even join it. And this is why the metaverse failed to attract investors and companies inside of its virtual reality, with the Wall Street Journal reporting that the metaverse's real estate prices decreased by 90%. In addition, companies like Disney discontinued any involvement with the metaverse after suggesting that the metaverse wasn't going to bring about the virtual reality dream of Silicon Valley. While the Vision Pro provides all the iOS apps that Apple's gigantic user base already loves, pushing the iPhone and MacBook experience into a seamless augmented lifelike reality. And this is in addition to high-quality brand partnerships all moving away from the metaverse and instead joining the Vision Pro, with even Disney CEO Bob Iger saying, quote, "We believe that Apple Vision Pro is a revolutionary platform that can make our vision a reality." But more importantly, the Vision Pro offers technology that you just can't find anywhere else in the market. Since at least 2016 and possibly as early as 2015, Apple has been working on both the hardware and software in a dedicated division called the Technology Development Group, where Apple went on a hiring spree, recruiting VR and AR experts, and acquiring all the relevant companies needed to fulfill their vision of an Apple virtual reality utopia, to the point that there were over 5,000 patents and extremely top-secret technical knowledge that has been accumulated over almost 9 years, allowing Apple to create a device with a similar impact to the first iPhone. But still, even with a revolutionary product design, how on earth are people going to buy into Apple's virtual reality dream? It seems so ridiculous from afar, but when you go into the details, it doesn't seem too far away. Because in a very short amount of time, we're going to see Apple go about its usual cycle for new products. First, they're going to release pre-orders to gauge demand, manage their initial inventory, and give the Vision Pro a sense of exclusivity. And by the next few months, they'll have estimated how many people are willing to plug into the Apple Matrix. From there, Apple may very well opt for a limited market availability for the Vision Pro. However, this would only be for the initial release phase, as this enables Apple to control the supply chain and ensure a smooth rollout while also making their products seem exclusive and high quality, a product only a lucky few will have the privilege to plug into. But then this leads on to the crucial point, turning a $3,500 device into a mainstream product. And this is where things will start to take off. You see, in 2024, Apple is undoubtedly going to be releasing a bunch of marketing videos, making it feel as though the Vision Pro will make everything in your own life better, solving the loneliness, the depression, the isolation, the boredom, the depression of your normal life. And then leveraging their strong brand presence, Apple will likely get your favorite celebrities and influencers to induce you into thinking it's actually better to be in the Vision Pro reality than your normal reality, allowing this soft, high-quality new reality to emerge out of your depressing reality, where all your past problems gradually fades away. Because when you put on the Vision Pro headset, your real world dissolves. All the depression, pain, loneliness, and isolation that your current life has will slowly just dissolve. As you transcend your lonely, dark flat, as you enter the Vision Pro, you'll be shown various people, cultures, and locations, exposed to the most pleasure that you can possibly imagine, combining the real world and digital world together. One of the key features that Tim Cook repeatedly mentioned during the presentation for the Vision Pro. And because of this all-encompassing experience, this will lead to buzz across the world. People won't believe what they're seeing. It will feel, as many claim today, like magic. And so your average Joe will want to feel normal, to keep up to date, to fit in, to keep up with the Joneses, or to have the same advantages as your peers. You will feel an inherent need to tune into the Vision Pro, as all your friends, community, religious groups, celebrities, businesses, and shops all start to operate within it, just as we've seen with iPhones, MacBooks, and social media. And once you experience the Vision Pro inside of an Apple shop, once you pop, you just won't stop. And this is what Silicon Valley is betting on. They want the edge of your curiosity. They want you to beg to see what your life will be like in the virtual world, how much better your life will be, how the person that you've always wanted to be, your destiny is just awaiting you in the Vision Pro. Apple will cater to all of your demands. And once all of this buzz, all of this virality for the Vision Pro takes off, they will then make the product substantially cheaper with a non-Pro version of the product. But then even still, the most likely price of the non-Pro version of Apple's Vision will still likely be around $2,000 at least. So why would anyone use this instead of a MacBook or iPhone, which offer everything you need at a massively discounted price? Well, as I mentioned, Vision Pro has quite obviously had a bunch of development, and it has been meticulously crafted to deliver unparalleled augmented reality experiences. With a wide field of view and dedicated sensors, almost everyone admits that it excels in tracking and interacting with the real world. Unlike the MacBook or iPhone, the Vision Pro ensures that you have a more engaging, more addictive, interactive experience with the online world, blurring the boundaries between the digital and physical realms, all while being a hands-free experience. You don't need to be crouched down on a bus. You don't need to be anywhere. You can just be sitting in your bed or on the couch, and the Vision Pro allows you to effortlessly engage with virtual content, all whilst maintaining focus on your surroundings. You could literally be walking in the woods, all while being in a serious work call. And because of their spatial audio technology, all the movies, videos, and games that you play will have a more realistic and immersive environment. The MacBook and iPhone just can't give you any sense of the spatial audio immersion, as this audio immersion takes you into a completely different world, making the overall experience more addicting than anything you could possibly imagine, truly immersing you in a world that you've never seen before, all while providing more powerful processing capabilities than the iPhone or Mac can even dream of. And so there is one final question here. Why would people continually stay in the Vision Pro world? Well, once it's gone mainstream, once everyone starts adopting the Vision Pro and all the facsimiles of it, how do you get people to stay in this world? Well, the Vision Pro, without a doubt, will make you feel incredible, because after every Vision Pro game you play, after every Vision Pro friend you meet, after every live 3D interactive movie you watch, after all of your best memories play right in front of you, there will be a rush of dopamine saturating your brain. You'll never want to leave. You can be what you want, when you want, and do what you want. And slowly you'll start to repeat the cycle every single day of the week. Just like all of your friends, neighbors, and family. You'll be able to jump into the Vision Pro universe, go to work in the Vision Pro universe, meet friends in the Vision Pro universe, play games in the Vision Pro universe, party in the Vision Pro universe, and even find love in the Vision Pro universe. And when this cycle happens, more and more people will plug into it out of the fear of missing out. Just like everyone's already jumped into social media and iPhones for fears of being left out of the tribe. I mean, without access to a smartphone and computer, you're left out of the work environment, businesses, relationships, friendships, everything. And so to break away from this technology, whether it's the Vision Pro or the Meta Quest, will eventually become almost impossible. And this is where the real dangers begin. I mean, augmented reality by itself has a lot of massive problems, but that's not even considering how it's going to interact with AI and other advances. We've already seen how good AI is getting at creating flat images and artwork. Programs like OpenAI's DALL-E 2 can create intricate and realistic images in seconds. But there's no reason that these algorithms can't be applied to 3D objects projected through augmented reality with tools like the Vision Pro. And as these two technologies improve together, we'll see AI-created environments and objects generated and displayed entirely within augmented reality. Running from a few simple prompts, we'll be able to create entirely unique, constantly changing virtual worlds. Sufficiently advanced AI will even be able to create characters and people, giving them their own personalities and appearance, to the point that there's going to be AI people walking around your environment, and you most likely won't even know if it's real anymore. And augmented reality-based AIs will be able to react to your own movements and inputs, creating a truly interactive world that responds to subjects like nothing we've ever seen before. And later down the line, neural implants will break the final barrier between the real and the virtual, with brain chips like Neuralink, making this a very possible reality in the next decade, which means something like the Vision Pro will eventually respond and adapt to your thoughts and feelings in real time. And all of this opens the doors to massive possibilities. On the one hand, paradise.
Now, I want to just pause there, because those of you that have been on this call for years, you've heard us talking about pieces of this. We're not just talking about a headset. We're talking about the physical world connecting to the digital world. And then when you start talking about the neural net type capabilities, now it's not just neural net, but there's capabilities that will communicate with the human body. Last week, I showed you a ring. I'll drop out of here and I'll kind of jump back to it and see if I can show it to you. This is an example of something that I believe will actually truly be the future of communication with the body. So this is not something that is theoretical. It's not something that is hyperware. It's not something that's potential. It's not something that doesn't work. It's not something that you've seen, but the point that I'm trying to communicate with you on is the ability to communicate with the human body from a digital ecosystem to a physical ecosystem in real time and then interact with it is here. You may not be able to stick it on your finger. You may not be able to wire it into your head like the Neuralink, but it's here for humanity, and it's in the productization phase. And when we start talking about, interacting, so think about it this way. Do you remember the first time that you put on headphones, maybe noise canceling headphones, and you could hear nothing, but you could hear the sound of a saxophone or of a piano or of a voice or something that was just like, wow, my senses really tied to that. And then they went to a point where you could take that noise canceling headphones and you could undo it, and then you could hear everything around you in the room, and then you could also hear the music. And have you ever wondered why someone, when maybe they're in special forces, they'd be running around with a gun, they got headphones on? That's the opposite. So now you can hear things all around you really well. It magnifies your hearing, but when you shoot, you don't hear the big bang. Now, what these different three examples basically articulate is using technology. For in this use case of headphones, the headphones would basically take frequencies that you're hearing, so it would have a mic and it's listening to the frequency. It would have a mic, and then it would do the opposite frequency and it would cancel it out. So if you do a frequency up and then a frequency in the opposite of that, counter opposite, it flatlines it and literally zeroes it out. So now you've canceled noise. And they're doing the same thing with these types of devices. So these, and I'll see
A
if I can
world
scan
perfectly
this
designed
out.
based on your innermost thoughts and designed out throughout China, where they rank you based on them, whilst perfect authoritarian governments.
So the point that I'm trying to drive at is the same thing that they're doing with earphones, with noise cancellations. They're going to do similar with headphones, with these Vision Pro and other goggles that are similar to it. The other thing you need to think about is, I don't know if you've seen this, but they've also tied them to phones. So you can actually just tie it into phones, and I believe that the same type of user experience will also be there. So it's not just something that you wear around your head, but the real driver here is that combination of the physical world and the digital world coming together. That is what we're talking about. And then what happens when it's all together, and how do people actually get into it? So in the digital world, namely what this call is all about, how can people or providers or developers log in to systems such as what Apple's building, or such as what, maybe other login based systems? So for instance, if you've logged in with a decentralized phone or system, you've seen how simple it is, how seamless. You just automatically, you pull up the page, push a button, it's automatically in. Or you scan it, it's automatically in. The goal is to be able to imagine a future. We're not saying stifle the innovation of what Apple or others are doing, but imagine it where you can actually walk around in this digital ecosystem. And maybe walking is not the right term, but you can actually exist in these ecosystems, but still be you. You can actually be private still. And if you have friends or people that you want to interact with, you can communicate with them securely and privately, and then to a level. So imagine, and I want to go back to the question that was asked earlier around how do I send funds to someone? Imagine walking up to someone in this digital world. And what's happening here? Like I'm seeing video feeds and I'm seeing people in different ecosystems. But what if I said the first 3 people to show me a QR code, I would send 100 rewards to? Could they do it? And then I could scan it, and then I could send them the rewards. They would get them real time. They could spend them. And in turn, I've actually gotten their address for as well. And I could even add that to my contacts. But what if, like I've got a phone, there's a camera here. What if I pulled up and I just put my QR code there? And so in other words, we're actually interacting in this digital ecosystem, metaverse, whatever people want to call it. And you can share contacts just by putting your phone up inside of it. So your ability to transact, your ability to communicate, your ability to interact all becomes a very simple, just a gesture, and people are scanning the QR code on the other side of it. So it's kind of all of it linking together. Did someone just say something? So I hope that you're seeing the importance of decentralization, the importance of owning your own identity, especially as things get more combined. We interact more We rely on systems more. I'm seeing more and more places not accept cash. And then with the news of something like this, where there's a whole new FedNow service. So for those of you that are aware, the world has standardized on a SWIFT system or an ACH system, and they've all used simple account numbers and routing numbers with bank IDs to be able to do that. Now, this system here is the same technology. So underneath the covers, it's the same technology that we've all been talking about, but it will actually cross interact with other systems. So in the end, we're talking about building a parallel system to the existing systems. So this system now has gone live on July 20th, 2023 in the United States of America from the Federal Reserve System. Does that mean that the United States dollars will be actually disseminated in this? If you want to buy a home, can you get a mortgage and the construction company that built that home get paid from the bank in a digital currency? When those things start happening, when people start getting paid payroll from a digital currency and they can transfer it or they can move it around, all of this stuff is going to shift as future systems actually start to really gain control. So for instance, if you get paid in a digital asset, can you pay someone in a digital asset? So maybe you bought a home. Can you actually pay for that home? Is let's say, in the current ecosystem, people don't mind paying interest because they look at it as a tax benefit. But could you automatically have your taxes paid? Could you automatically have payroll taxes paid? And that's why a lot of these systems are looking at it as a positive, but really in the end, that's why we talk about within the digital world, having the individual being able to own their own identity, being able to have a digital surname that also links into a verified physical identity, so to speak. And so that's what we've been building, whether it's a driver's license, whether it's a license plate. I'll jump into a different video here so people can actually see this. So this is one of the early on ones. Excuse me. This is one of the early on ones here. So, and actually, there's actually a lot of new advancements that we've come up with. And by the way, this last week was the first week that I saw in the state of Utah the same thing that we're talking about here and that they just approved and went live within Wyoming, which is a registration for a vehicle that only happens one time. You don't have to renew it anymore. That's here, that's live, that's real. But imagine if you could actually cryptographically manage it or value it. Now, if you've got a license plate that's decentralized or using an ID system that is off of a decentralized digital world system or other countries that have adopted it, what else do you need? You actually need, let's see if I can view this a little bit better. You need the ability to actually have a title or a registration. So those are some of the things that we've been able to mature. And then how does that actually get verified and scanned? So how can a buyer and a seller or a third-party registration jurisdiction validate these things in real time and cryptographically? How does that tie? So how is it that someone could scan a license plate and be able to show that, here it's registered, this is who owns it, but you're proving all of these things. Does it have insurance? Does it have drivers? What happens if someone that owns it passes away? How does that transfer ownership to another owner? How's the taxation work? All of that stuff can basically be intelligently built in, and one of the big use cases around it. So for instance, what you're seeing here in this frivolous world of future talk, which
To
we've
have
all
more
heard,
control than they've
we've
ever
all heard
dreamed of.
this message,
State-
right? We've all heard the
It's just the
fear, we've
FBI
all heard
life.
the
Because for
reality,
propaganda,
and there's really some good stuff inside of here, but we've heard about this for a very long time. What do? We all go back to our worlds where we eat food, we have shelter, and we have some form of transportation. We have some form of value exchange where we're adding value and making some type of a compensation for that. Maybe it's food, maybe it's dollars, maybe. So my point is those four things that we're going and doing, and how does all of it work? How do we build up value? How's it actually adopted? So we're working within the digital world to try and bring systems that are real world systems to humanity. And the next one that we're currently cranking on is the ability to register a vehicle. So you've got a jurisdiction, you've got an identity, but you can do this without actually changing, providing your name. So the difference is, let's say someone in the physical world actually gets pulled over, an officer can understand what it is. And so, for instance, when I say understand, this is the organization. By the way, this is a private membership association, the American Association of Motor Vehicles Administration. Now, this is not just America, it's also Canada fits in this as well, because certain provinces subscribe to it. But what this has is a database structure underneath it that each state can adapt or adopt different policies for. So some can say, hey, we're going to participate. Some say we're not even going to do it. But what I'm driving at is the ability for an officer to basically pull up a plate and validate, yes, it's registered. Yes, it's insured. Yes, there's ownership. Yes, there's drivers. And, if somebody's done something wrong and maybe they're speeding or maybe they haven't stopped at the stop sign, a moving violation is different than traveling and being private and sovereign. There's a very big distinction from it. You can be free and travel on roads. You can make a mistake and have a moving violation and have a consequence, but you should not have your identity or your sovereignty taken because you're driving on a road and being profiled and then centralized and then controlled. So the difference is you would have an individual, but the actual name for that, the surname for that individual would not show up in the records. I'll give you the opposite of that. In India today, if you're driving down the road, which I've actually been there, and we've got a team over there. I tried to let me drive a motorcycle by myself. I mean, I've got thousands of hours on a motorcycle, and they're like, no, just get on the back and we'll take you around. I didn't understand why, but make a long story short, if you take the license plate number in India and you put it, anybody can literally be sitting at a light, look in front of them, grab the license plate number, put it into a database, and be able to pull open, the name, the phone number, and the address for that respective individual. Now, in the United States of America, that data is not public like it is in India. We will find very quickly that neither one of those policies are good policies. And this is the system that basically says who's going to participate, how does that tie? And the reason I bring this up is the digital world is tying to these same systems, but a good example of how the digital world will work is the data that is provided around the individuals that own those assets or are driving those assets. They don't need to provide that. Here's an example. When you go, let's say you drink alcohol and you go into a bar. This is one of the 101 early adopter phases for DIDs, Decentralized ID. Do you really need to give them your ID? So I don't know. Do you need to go and give them your ID that has, your date of birth, your address? It used to have your social security number on it. Do you need to really give that to them so that they can try and figure out, oh, that is your date of birth? Okay, great. Can you validate the ID? One, do you really need to validate that they're over 18? If the date so my point is really all they need is to be able to run a scan and it automatically says they're over 18. And that type of disclosure of information is what key management can enable in the digital world. So when we talk about this crazy video around control and all of these systems as the digital ecosystem starts standing up, in the digital world, if we do it right, where individuals can actually own their own identity, they can still be free. They can still be private. They can still have autonomy and sovereignty for who they are, for what they've worked for. So I hope this makes sense. I'll just stop right now, and if anyone has questions or thoughts or feedback, please provide it now. If not, we'll wrap up here.
Hey, Michael, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi,
Hi.
Margaret.
Good
Hi.
to hear your voice.
Thank you. I just jumped on, and did you mention anything recently about WorldCoin and the World ID?
No.
I know you've talked about it in the past, but
No,
I wondered.
No, we
Yeah.
haven't jumped into any of that. No. Any other thoughts?
Okay, no, I'm complete. Thank you.
Okay,
Michael, I have a question.
go ahead.
Hey, I missed the first part of this, but did you say when you originally brought up the FedNow
No,
site
I'm
that,
complete for the moment.
all of
Okay,
these
thanks.
systems, in all of these systems, the emerging ones, the CBDCs, and some of the cryptos, that the company or the institution owns the keys, and that with the Clear system, is it the only one where you own your keys?
Yeah, so I'm going to repeat the question. This is in the town hall ecosystem. So Adam had a really good question around, with the Fed now announcement, who owns the keys? And to be honest with you, I haven't dug into the Fed now technology and the wallets and how it works, but I will. I would make some bets that it's basically using technology that is built on Ripple and Stellar ecosystems and wallets that are similar to the Stellar-based wallet systems. I would say that Stellar is more decentralized than Ripple by far, but Ripple ultimately, in my opinion, they are a centralized ecosystem. And the reason that I would say that is they're incorporated. They actually have, they have the right to exist because they've been given the right because they asked for the right. And they can be terminated, or not just their business existence, but the ability for them to be attacked, for the ability for them to be viable, for the jurisdiction that they're in. Those are all risks. So the goal is it's really to set up a similar ecosystem as what Bitcoin did, where there's a lot of nodes that are truly decentralized and separate, which people would argue with me all day on that. And to be honest with you, the farming that has been going on within the Bitcoin ecosystem has been centralized in a lot of different ways, but that's not the point that I'm trying to make. What I'm trying to make is you need an ecosystem that can't be killed. It can't be shut down. It can't be turned off. And you need a system that can be truly audited to know how the key management and the key ownership can actually be disseminated. And so the core to the answer would be, we need to validate how the FedNow system works, operates, and how the keys are managed and owned. And, this only went live 5 days ago, so we don't have the answers to that. But in the digital world, we can tell you that, the key rotation, the key ownership, and the key management is all truly decentralized. There are no backdoors or central systems that can actually control it. It truly is decentralized. So,
Thank you. I have a second part of that question, if you have time.
Yeah, go for it.
Further to our conversation last year about indigenous-led sovereign governments and their own currencies, creating their own currencies and managing that, does the Clear ecosystem, has any indigenous sovereign governments actually initiated their own governance, particularly their own currency? Has that transpired yet within the Clear system?
Yeah, so it sounds like you've missed a lot of meetings, but in the last 8 months, we've basically met with 16 different countries. Majority of them are in the Pacific, and we have 2 phases. The first phase includes these countries here, and basically these countries are adopting some of them. 3 of them are actively adopting. One of them is fully deployed. It's this digital Tuvalu is the first one that it's actually working through an ecosystem for, abilities for identity, for, let's say, online marriages, registration, countries, assets, payments, land management, dispute management, and then, and then eventually currencies to be able to be disseminated. And, this is not a large country. It's one of the smallest ones in the world, but we believe that that's actually the right places to start within these smaller countries. So when we kind of look at phase 1, these are small countries that are either already sovereign, like Tonga or Samoa, or they're wanting to become sovereign. Maybe they're moving away from Spain or France or Britain control, and they actually are starting to stand up their own systems. And so it's not just, can a tribe use it? Like I think our use case before was a tribe or a community, but you can actually stand up a organization. Here, I'll pull up the different kinds of organizations. So inside of the digital world, you can basically pull up, an association, or you can create an organization. It's an association, a community, a company, a decentralized autonomous organization, a trust, a country. You can create them, and then you can create assets within them, and then you can disseminate those assets in real time. So like within 5 minutes, you could literally do everything that I just talked about. You can create a company and create an asset. You can drop the asset on your phone and send it to somebody else.
Wow. How far you've come since I last tuned in.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. More to say about that.
Yeah. So that, that is massive advancements when you really kind of understand it. So,
Brilliant.
other thoughts, comments, questions? Okay. Well, go ahead.
I'm going to be in touch with, sorry, I just thought I'd last minute. I'm going to be in touch with you with the people from the Squamish sovereign government out of Canada about all this very soon, which is kind of a follow-up to something we spoke about a year ago.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful.
They're ready to move.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for joining into the digital world, the digital town hall every Tuesday, 5:30 Mountain Time. We're grateful for your attendance. We're grateful for those that also helped out from, fielding questions. I know there's a lot of different ecosystems, and most people, even on different calls, aren't seeing other people. It's been nice. I don't know if we had audio across it. I'll go listen to it in the future, but we had multiple different rooms asking different questions, and I wonder if they were actually able to see each other. So I'll just pop that out real quick. So Wally, were you able to hear Adam's questions?
No.
Okay, that's what I thought. So we've still got that's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing it was built that way because of the rooms. You can have a digital dispute, and an arbitrator can basically be working with multiple different parties and getting clarity points. So anyways, I'll stop blabbing there, but Zoom also works that same way. So we'll go ahead and wrap this meeting up today. So again, Tuesday, July 25th, we'll convene, and thank you for your time and your attention, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.